Hey everybody, Mike Nazaruk here today with a very special podcast in the Normal Guy series titled When Mr. Trump. I decided to go in a bit of a different direction this week to kind of get a few things off my chest and to express my views on some matters that many Americans are really concerned about. And that would namely be the status of a possible return of President Trump. So what prompted me to go off the path here of my usual spiritual, motivational, and inspirational podcast and dive into talking about this mess of a country we are experiencing right now? Well, maybe it's because I am the normal guy, as my podcast series title indicates. I am a normal guy. Everyday normal, just like millions of you other men and women across this great nation are. And I feel the need to represent all of us in expressing and conveying our frustrations and concerns using the talents that God has blessed me with and put them all forth on this podcast stage in order to be a voice for all of us. Okay? So now I want to start with the main topic of my presentation here, and that would be about President Trump. I first want to say, before anybody gets the wrong message and thinking that I'm going to bash President Trump here, no, I am not. I personally think that President Trump was the most awesome president we ever had, period. And I'm happy and proud to say that I voted for him in 2016 and again in 2020. Because of what this man accomplished for all of us in this country during his 4 short years in office was nothing short than absolutely amazing. And he did all these wonderful things while he was being attacked on a daily basis by the radical liberal left and their trusty mainstream fake news media. And they are continuing to attack this man to this very day, even though he's been out of office for a year now. But why they're still going batshit crazy, attempting to destroy this man, his family, and his financial interests, was because the Democrats and the radical left want to make damn sure that no other individual, other than the exclusive DC elite club members, ever gets the bright idea about going anywhere near the Oval Office. Now, what Mr. Trump was succeeding in doing was putting the kibosh on the Democrats' insatiable quest for total control, wealth, and power. And he simply could not ever afford to have anybody waltz into the presidency and do that to them again like Trump did. In other words, they wanted to make sure to make a bloody example out of him and conveying a message to our country that your kind is simply not welcome here. And which is why these same insane individuals brainstorm and ginned up a big elaborate plan so that there would be no way in hell that President Trump would ever be reelected. Which brings me directly to the crux of what this podcast is about. Okay. Now, last weekend, as you all know, President Trump held a rally in Florence, Arizona. It was well attended by many thousands of Trump supporters as usual. And I was watching it on TV for about 45 minutes or so until something dawned upon me. President Trump always talks about what accomplishments he did as president, but says nothing about what he is going to do. And another thing that stuck out to me was that all of these rallies are exactly the same. I mean, he says the same exact stuff at every rally. I did this and I did that. Plus, I always thought it was a little childish on his part for calling people he didn't like and political opponents a bunch of derogatory names. And I mean, at times it did sort of make Mr. Trump sound sort of like a fifth grader. Okay, I think. Plus, I think he went a little overboard, bitching and moaning about the liberal fake news media lambasting him every day. Well, they liked doing that because they knew they were getting under his skin. And it seemed at times like this abuse was getting to him. But, okay, I don't want to hear any more about what he did when he was president. We all know what he did, and we're very appreciative of it. And we all know how the liberal left and their blessed media were and still are constantly trying to destroy him. I, along with millions of other Americans, want to know what he's going to do about that demented dunce who's occupying the Oval Office right now. I mean, this idiot and his minions stole the election for President Trump and the American people. He undoubtedly cheated his way into the White House. And yes, he did cheat. And there are mountains of evidence that have been acquired of him doing so. So I don't want anybody commenting to me about baseless claims and unfounded accusations, okay? So President Trump, what are you going to do about this? I know you never conceded the 2020 election, but what does any of that mean? Are you going to do nothing and admit that this evil dunce shit all over you and made you out to look like a fool? And what are we, the American people, supposed to do in the meantime? Just put up with this evil Marxist, socialistic-leaning government and this demented, deranged doofus of a president and his insatiable quest of total destruction of our country for another 3 years? Now, in your rally last weekend, you kept saying that we all had to fight. Fight because our lives depend on it. Fight for what is right. Fight for our freedom. Fight, fight, fight. Well, okay, we all get that, but how are we supposed to fight, Mr. Trump? I mean, am I supposed to join some sort of military militia or something? Now, like my podcast implies, I'm just a normal guy, a Navy veteran of the Persian Gulf War, 64 years old on the doorsteps of being a senior citizen, and just trying to make the best of my retirement years. And just recently found out I'm going to be a grandfather. So how am I supposed to fight? How is the typical man or woman who has to worry about keeping a roof over their heads and raising and feeding their families supposed to fight? So actually, Mr. Trump, to be quite honest with you, a lot of Americans are kind of tired of all of your talk. They're tired of you ballyhooing yourself and your past wonderful accomplishments, which the White House dunce pretty much erased after his first few weeks in office during the past year. I mean, what Americans are really waiting for is to see what you were going to do about these radical Democrats stealing the election from you and from us, and their crazed diabolical destruction of our nation. And if you plan to lead us in some way to take back our country, which, if that dunce in the White House remains president for the other 3 years of his term, will be destroyed beyond any recognizable means, along with the people in it, meaning us. Now, President Trump has always said how much he loves this country and how he really loves the American people. And I truly think he's being totally honest and very sincere about that. But with this endless talk and the lack of any kind of action towards getting rid of the evil cabal that stole the presidency from him and are now at the controls in Washington, D.C., running this nation into the ground, I find myself sometimes doubting this sincerity and occasionally wondering if these were all just worthless words coming from Mr. Trump. I mean, he has to see that Americans are really suffering to the point of desperation. They are finding it nearly impossible to keep that roof over their heads, to feed and clothe their kids, to pay their bills, and to even be able to afford to put enough gasoline in their vehicles just so they could go to work and to just plain live. And this has all happened in the 1 year since that idiot reprobate took office. So President Trump, if you happen to be viewing this podcast, I would like to respectfully and simply ask, When? When will we see something happen from your end? Now, for the past several months or so, going back to last spring and summer of 2021, at different speaking appearances you were at, you said something like, I think you all will be very happy very soon. Well, okay, happy for what? And I'll ask again, when and how soon? We all know that patience is indeed a virtue, and we have been more than willing to be patient. But how long do we have to be patient for? Now, I know for a fact that I'm joined by many other people in praying that God, our Heavenly Father, empowers you with all the strength and the wisdom you need in order to lead us all away from the horrible abyss we're staring down into, and help us to once again become a nation where we don't have to be in constant fear of simply living and raising our families, where we can once again be the normal guys and girls that we love being. Well, hey, that's it for now. And thank you very much for watching my podcast today. And we'll see you all again next time. Goodbye.